All right, let's get into it. Today we're opening up the Wombat Files for a pretty serious investigation. We're going to follow the clues, sift through all the evidence, and hopefully crack the case of a really deadly disease that's threatening one of Australia's most beloved animals.
And that's really the big question, isn't it? Across the entire continent, a silent killer is spreading. And the race is on to figure out not just what it is, but where it's hitting the hardest, and why. The clues? Well, they're scattered everywhere. But the answer might just be hiding in plain sight.
So, to really understand this case, we have to start at the crime scene. And look, this isn't just one location we're talking about. It's a huge, widespread epidemic that's been tearing through wombat populations for decades.
So let's meet our victim, the bare-nosed wombat. Now, it's so easy to just see them as cute, furry little critters, but they are so much more than that. They're actually called ecological engineers. Just think about what that means for a second. All they're digging isn't just for building a home. It literally turns over the soil, it boosts nutrients, and it creates habitats for tons of other species. So when a wombat disappears, it's not just one animal that's lost. It sends a ripple effect out that can weaken the whole ecosystem.
And this really shows you just how bad the situation is. On one side, you've got your healthy, thriving wombat, a key part of its environment. But on the other, you have an infected one. The disease causes these awful symptoms. Their skin gets thick and crusty, they lose their hair, they get these painful lesions, and eventually, the animal just gets too weak to even find food. It's this slow, awful process that, if it's not treated, always ends in death.
So what is the culprit behind all this devastation? Well, it's a disease called sarcoptic mange, and it's caused by a microscopic mite, you can't even see it, called Sarcoptes scabii, that actually burrows into the wombat's skin. This tiny parasite is the killer that we're hunting in this investigation.
And its impact is, well, it's staggering. To give you a sense of the scale here, one long-term study in a Tasmanian national park saw the wombat population collapse by 94%. 94. That's not just a decline, that's practically a local extinction. It's devastating.
Now, a case this huge, spread across a whole continent, that's a massive challenge for researchers. But it also led to a pretty incredible solution, one that was powered by a really unexpected group of investigators.
So this brings us to the big problem. How can a small team of scientists possibly track this disease over thousands and thousands of kilometers? I mean, it's a logistical nightmare. They can't be everywhere at once, or can they?
The solution was, honestly, brilliant. Instead of trying to hire more scientists, the researchers basically deputized an army of citizen scientists. They turned to everyday people like you and me, hikers, farmers, people just out for a drive, wildlife lovers, to become their eyes and ears on the ground. And the tool that made it all happen is called WomSAT. It's a really simple website and a mobile app that lets anyone, anywhere, report a wombat sighting. It's basically a way of crowdsourcing a giant data set that would have been impossible for any research team to collect by themselves.
And the process couldn't be simpler. You see a wombat, you open the app, you log its location, and give it a quick health score. Does it look healthy or sick? And then you hit submit. That's it. In just a few seconds, you've contributed a vital piece of evidence to a massive scientific investigation.
So with thousands of these reports flooding in from this new army of investigators, a clear picture of this epidemic finally started to emerge from the fog.
And the response from the public was just incredible. During the 5 years this study focused on, citizen scientists sent in more than 4,400 relevant sightings of wombats. Every single one had a location and a health status. That is a mountain of data. And what that data showed was pretty shocking. When the researchers crunched all those numbers, they found that a staggering 31.2%, so nearly 1 in every 3 wombats reported, had visible signs of mange. This wasn't some rare, isolated disease, it was a widespread crisis. This whole effort was it was revolutionary. As the researchers themselves put it, this citizen-led project created the biggest, most up-to-date map of sarcoptic mange in wombats that has ever existed. It was a complete game changer for understanding this disease.
But, a map is only the first step. The real breakthrough came when the scientists started digging into this massive data set, looking for patterns, for the environmental clues that could explain why mange was so bad in some places, but not in others.
To do this, they fed all 4,422 sightings into a really powerful computer model. You can think of it like a digital detective. It can look at dozens of different environmental factors, things like rainfall, elevation, how the land is used, and it connects all the dots to find hidden relationships between the environment and the disease.
And the model found something really fascinating. While a bunch of factors played a role, two of them just jumped right out as the prime suspects. The single biggest predictor of mange risk, contributing a whopping 66.8% to the model, was how close the wombats were to urban areas. The second biggest was annual rainfall.
So this led to the first huge clue. The closer a wombat lives to a city or a town, the more likely it is to get sarcoptic mange. The model showed this really clear link. As the distance to urban areas went down, the risk of mange shot way up. And that makes you wonder, right? Why? Are their immune systems just more stressed near people, or are they living closer together, letting the disease spread faster? That's the next mystery that needs solving.
And the second major clue has to do with the weather. The model found that areas that get more rain every year, specifically between 400 and 700 millimeters, were also mange hotspots. This suggests that the mites that cause the disease just do better. They thrive in these more humid conditions.
So, by putting these clues together, the model was able to generate a predictive map, pinpointing the exact regions where wombats are at the highest risk. And these hotspots are concentrated in very specific areas of New South Wales, Victoria, and Tasmania. This gives conservationists a clear target for where to focus their efforts.
And this brings us to the final, and let's be honest, the most important part of this whole investigation. With the culprit identified and the hotspots all mapped out, the focus can finally shift from investigation to action. So where do we go from here? We have this incredibly detailed map, built from thousands of reports from everyday people, pointing directly to where help is needed the most. What's the next move in the fight to save these animals? Look, the fight against sarcoptic mange is far from over. But for the first time ever, wildlife managers and conservation groups aren't just working in the dark. Thanks to an army of thousands of ordinary people who stepped up and became scientists, they now have a treasure map, a guide that shows them exactly where to send their resources to treat sick animals and protect the ones that are still healthy. It just goes to show you what can be achieved when science and the public team up to solve a really critical case.